Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto Learned the Secret of Shadow Clone, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
It had been a chaotic night of winding down, explaining the situation and finally crashing wherever they could for the Naruto group. But now with morning upon them and the sun beginning to peek through the windows, Naruto was up first and somewhat ready for a new day. Trudging his way through the halls of the mansion, it took him a bit to find his way around and reach a common area on the second floor. The room was rather massive as far as he was concerned and would have probably fit his entire apartment. A long table on his left coming through the door, several chairs and couches in the center with smaller tables in front of the three longer couches, and to the right was a fireplace and a large open space. That would be perfect for studying seals later on when they had downtime. Looking around the space and finding Koyuki already there, hair messy and wrapped in a robe, he made sure to knock on the door frame to announce his presence. Seeing her jump a little made him feel a little guilty, but he wiped the thought away. He was a ninja after all, walking silent was second nature. Mornin' Koyuki. Mornin' Naruto. The servants will be coming with breakfast soon, don't worry about making anything. Seating herself on a couch, the boy did the same, sitting on a long couch across from her. What got you up so early? Koyuki pointed at several stacks of papers on the table in front of her. Beyond daimyo duties, I am still determined to continue my actress career. That somehow means lots of paperwork I have to keep up with, never mind now this mess with Konoha. Seeing him about to protest, she held up a hand. No, don't worry about it and don't offer to deal with it yourself. This is what I want to do, so just relax and focus on your own plans. Fine. Well, I gotta wait for the others to get up before we can start planning. I have a lot I want to get to now that we're out of Konoha. Leaning back with a sigh, the older girl nodded. I can only imagine. Gonna clue me in about what you want to do with my train soon? Yeah, that'll probably come up today. Got some time? For you? All the time in the world. While she had her own designs for the future, she could focus on being a daimyo for now. Soon though. Hearing coughing, they both looked up to see Tayuya and Karen walking through the door, Karen in the lead and having used her sensing ability to find Naruto. Since they had left so quickly, they had been short of clothes. Naruto, however, had his own clothes sealed away on his person and loaned everyone sleepwear. Both girls were in baggy black sweatpants while Karen was in a white t-shirt that was big on her. Tayuya just opted for a sports bra, less laundry that way. Tayuya was already grinning. Morning, Whiskers. Mornin'. You seen Hinata or Ino yet? Karen nodded as both girls sat together on a smaller couch. They're on the way, I can sense them moving about. Good. I wanna get to working on upcoming plans. Tayuya groaned. You're just a regular worker bee, aren't you? Chuckling, the boy thought about his clones. I sure can make a bunch of me. Hearing shuffling, he looked up again to see Hinata using her Byakugan to find them and a tired Ino shuffling after her. More loaned clothes, Ino in sweats and another white t-shirt while Hinata was just in her old hoodie of his he had forgotten about that covered her to her thighs. Was he really that much taller than her already? Both girls mumbling greetings, they dropped down on either side of Naruto, Ino looking ready to fall back asleep. Well, that's everyone. I know it's early, but I wanna start planning things out and setting the tone for what we're hoping for. Koyuki nodded. Rebuilding a zoo is on your list, correct? Yeah, I'm thinking we can head there first, start the rebuilding process now since it'll probably take the most time. Koyuki thought about it. Where Azushio used to be was much further south, possibly a prime space for farmland. Cultivating farmland would probably be for the best at first. Yeah, but I want Whirlpool and Spring to be allies, which means we should give something back. So I was thinking, maybe we could become a secret manufacturing hub for you. That caught Koyuki off guard. That's why you want to connect with rail then? It would allow for faster shipping of heavy materials. And people. Karen was following along while she thought quietly. She had an idea herself. If the train is already going to be far enough underground to be traveling under the shallow ocean waters, security would be less of a factor. One of the problems with Aisu was that in order for ships to reach the village, the seals maintaining the whirlpools had to be redirected or shut down to allow passage. An underground rail means no ships are needed and the whirlpools can be active all the time. Naruto was grinning. That was my idea. But we'll need to make a stop on the way there. A stop ? Karen was leaning forward as she asked her question. Yeah, there's this bridge builder in the land of Wave. Tazuna. He's a good man, been through a lot. My team's first major mission was protecting him and things went sideways fast. I want to see if maybe we could convince him to come on board helping us rebuild the village. Tazuna was a fantastic designer after all. Naruto could provide nearly limitless manpower, but he didn't necessarily know what to do with it. Kayuki liked the idea so far. How about Aisu becomes Spring's ninja village ? Naruto looked up in surprise and the daimyo hurried to explain. We still have snow ninja, sure, but our numbers are much smaller. But for the public we'll keep them and foster a small force. However, Aisu can be our actual main force, kept in the dark and in the shadows. We don't want the rest of the world learning about Aizushio until it's ready after all. Naruto leaned back with a hand to his chin as he considered that, you would be relying on us for your country's defense. That's a lot of trust, Kayuki. Kayuki shrugged. It's you, I have no reason not to trust you. I know you'll do right by us. We can start the tunnel construction right away as well as a show of good faith. Pausing and reminding himself that right now he was currently surrounded by people that he could actually trust, he agreed to her idea. Okay. So rebuild Aisu, join the two nations, try to get assistance from Tazuna in Wave. Tayuya held up a hand. You know, as much as clones can speed up the process, you're going to need actual live people. No reason to rebuild a nation with no one living there. Karen chimed in as well. We know the location of several sound bases that hold prisoners, we could free them. Naruto met her gaze. We'll need to give them the choice, however. Join Spring or Aisu, or go about their own devices. I don't want to force anyone to come with us. Tayuya just smirked. Trust me, most if not all of them will come with us. You don't know how sound treats people. Plus, there are lots of war-torn places in the nations. Give the people a chance to rebuild in a quiet place where there's no chance of conflict and they'll flock to you. Hinata tapped Naruto on the shoulder, gaining his attention. While I don't know a lot about seals, I do remember what I've seen about the Leaf Village's wall. My team was on the wall reconstruction a few times. There are tons of seals that deal with concealment, chakra negation, and environmental control. We should think about doing the same for the Aisu Islands. That'd be smart. We could probably build fortress islands as well around the main island as buffers. Karen bounced the idea off of Hinata, who agreed with her. Naruto brought the conversation back to labor. Okay, so I'm thinking we don't relax just yet. Full steam ahead. We can pack up and head for Wave, skirting the border between the land of fire and hot springs for most of the trip. If we get Tazuna to agree to help, I'll place a Haration tag in Wave so we can quickly move back and forth between here and there. We can start the rebuilding process first while I supplement with clones, and when labor issues start popping up we can make plans to start raiding Orochimaru. Tayuya didn't want to be anywhere near the snake, but if it meant getting back at the bastard, she was all for it. I'm down. Karen unsealed her bag of Uzumaki scrolls. We'll need to make time to go through these as well. I'd like to learn as well. Naruto nodded, thinking of his own storage scroll with what few Uzumaki records he had been able to obtain. I'll help you out. Let's leave that stuff here just in case. This is gonna be our home base for a while. Kayuki waved a hand. Stay here as long as you need. There's no shortage of space. Looking back, she saw her staff laying out breakfast. Hey, let's eat, and then you lot can plan or head out. The sun was only a little higher now, but the group was hopeful that something new was coming to fruition before them. A new day in Konoha meant new problems. Though life moved on and the civilian population had no clue to the issues facing the village, a good portion of the ninja population was in a panic. In the Hokage Tower, Tsunade herself was at her seat at the head of the council chambers, sleep-deprived and angry. Just behind her was a visibly angry Jiraiya who had his arms crossed over his broad chest. Assembled around her were the heads of the ninja clans, along with the civilian side of the council and the elders. Also today in attendance were teams the 7th of August 10 and Team Guy. Currently there was scattered chatter as Tsunade rubbed her temples. This was not how she wanted to start her day. One of the civilian members, a stout man in his 40s with dark hair, slammed a hand on the table. We knew that boy was going to cause trouble. And here we are, several sites around the village destroyed, an apartment complex nearly burned to the ground, a historical site destroyed, and apparently reports that the Uzumaki temple might have been ransacked, all because we pushed back his promotion. Jiraiya, however, leaned forward to put an end to that argument. Actually, it was someone else who torched Naruto's apartment last night. I only got a flash of a non-leaf headband before the attacker disappeared down into the catacombs. Can only imagine where they are now. Danzo sighs, that labyrinth will be near impossible to search to completion, and there are more than a few exits that leave the village itself. Something I had been pleading with the council to work on putting stronger restrictions on. The man was inside seething. Someone had undone years' worth of work and effort and put the Leaf Village in a precarious position. That would not be allowed to stand for long. Danzo was not above making heads roll, publicly, if needed. It was Sum who leaned forward now, gaining everyone's attention. While her anger was usually legendary, everyone was put off by the cold rage on her face. So we lose one of our own, a possible future clan head if the boy was allowed to grow up some, and we have no clue where he is? That's unacceptable. She and the rest of the council was unaware of the 2 new Uzumaki that had been found. Tsunade, however, decided it was best to get that knowledge out in the open. Though she wouldn't voice Naruto's threats since she was certain she could make sure it would not come to pass. There's actually a problem there as well. The Uzumaki clan has sought asylum elsewhere, out of fear for their lives. Seeing everyone around her mutter, she pressed on. Apparently some of Naruto's clanmates had come to the village to find him. He actually would have been made a full clan head in light of that discovery if he had been allowed to stay. Watching everyone's reactions, she didn't miss several of the civilian members flinch. Interesting. One woman of the civilian council, dressed in a fine kimono and smelling of roses, raised a hand. Be that as it may, he was a leaf ninja, was he not? Why would he not trust the leaf to protect him? Shouldn't you list him as a missing nin and force him to return? It was the ever-watchful Hiashi that raised his voice, coughing to gain everyone's attention first. The Uzumaki clan is an elder clan within the Leaf. Naruto's status as clan head would trump his status as a ninja. As such, if as clan head he decided it was best to leave the Leaf for the betterment of his clan, then he was free to do so. All of the clans agreed to such measures at the formation of the Leaf. While the clans knew forming villages was for the good of everyone in the long run, sometimes things changed and legal means to leave were needed to avoid war. The first man of the civilian council frowned as he looked back at the assembled teams sitting behind the ninja council. Their numbers were off, he noticed. Seems to me the Uzumaki brat took more than just his clan. Seems kidnapping is on his list of misdeeds last night. Thankful the bigoted man opened his mouth, Hiashi continued on. While this was not voiced out loud, as clan heir my daughter was given express permission to pursue a relationship by any means necessary in an effort to foster a future union of our clans. This, however, is a clan affair, not under the supervision of the council. Tsunade sighed. Hinata, however, is still just a leaf nin, even if she is the favored heir to the Hyuga. Clan matters always come first, Lady Hokage, you know that. Did you not travel for years for your own clan duties? He owed this woman no favors and she had not gained his trust in the slightest yet. He was willing to throw her under the proverbial akamiki, as it were. Though Hiashi was stretching the truth a bit about Hinata still being heir, no one but him and her knew that. Her sensei might have had an inkling about it, but no hard proof. Hiding a smirk, he knew he had leverage. Seeing eyes turning to himself, Inoiki crossed his arms. Don't. The Yamanaka foster strong independent values early on in all of our members. If my daughter, and also a clan heir, has decided taking sides with the Uzumaki is in her best interest, then I support that. Unless I receive a letter of ransom or resignation, I will continue to assume my daughter is a proud kunoiki of the Leaf on official clan business. While he had no machinations like the Hyuga, he would do or say whatever necessary to keep Ino out of the line of fire. He was worried sick about her, but he knew she could handle herself. In the stands above where they were waiting most likely to be questioned, the assembled teams talked among themselves. Everyone was questioning Team 7 about Naruto and what might have driven him to leave. Had he been acting different? Were things really so bad for him? Sakura and Sasuke both knew that yes, things had not been great for the boy, but they couldn't exactly come out and say why. How could they? Hey, our friend was actually used as a sacrifice to imprison an ancient demon of immeasurable power since he was a baby, and he's been treated like dirt ever since for it? Yeah, sure. That'd go over well. Kiba was furious that it seemed like Naruto took Hinata away, though he wouldn't say why. Yes, she was his teammate, but there was more there. Shino quietly admitted that he was sure Hinata was the one that convinced Naruto to take her with him. The quiet boy had been watching Hinata a bit more closely than anyone else had realized. Both boys agreed, however, one reluctantly, that if Naruto was protecting them, then they were at least in good hands. They'd all know via a massive explosion somewhere after all if something happened. Through all the talk, Kakashi was quiet, a troubled look on his face. He has his own thoughts on the matter, but he wasn't going to be voicing them, allowing the genin to get it out of their systems. Guy is watching Kakashi but makes no move to bring it up with Asuma and Kurenai. His rival was thinking hard about something, and it was itching his brain that he recognized the look on the Cyclops' face. He'd corner the other Junin later and ask him about it. For now the senseis quieted down the group, reminding them that soon the council would be calling them down one by one to be interviewed. They all knew one of their missing friends in some capacity. After all, any information might help future meetings or concerns. All of them settled in for what was looking like a long day. 2 weeks after their first night in snow, Naruto and his group were just making their way into Wave. The journey had been relatively easy, keeping to the hot spring side of the border. They had an easy time avoiding patrols from the Leaf. Now, however, as the group were putting away their headbands and walking on the road towards a truly massive bridge, Naruto was grinning. It's still crazy to see. Ino was looking up in wonder. This is the bridge you guys helped defend? This builder guy really knows his stuff. You know it. He calls himself a super builder for a reason. Laughing and walking, Naruto pausing as his eyes land on a statue built in the middle of the road. It was Team 7, with a plaque on the bottom facing them. Reading its contents, he went from curious to majorly touched with moments. That old bastard, he'd have words with him when he found him. Hinata, however, leaned over his shoulder. The great Naruto bridge, where our country had our hopes and dreams returned to us by a kind but determined man. We thank Team 7 for helping us in our time of need. Turning wide eyes to the boy, she smiled gently at the raw emotion on his face. I'm guessing you didn't know, Naruto? Hell number. Old drunk. Muttering and turning away, the boy walked along while scrubbing his eyes. Ino and Tayuya both remained silent while Karen walked next to Hinata. Seems he has a habit of helping people. Hinata nodded. That's Naruto. As they followed the boy and looked around the bustling town, they made it further and further away from the main roads. Eventually coming across a quiet home tucked away on the outskirts of town. They all watched as Naruto knocked on the door and waited. Door opening and being greeted by a very beautiful dark-haired woman, she was all smiles as she recognized Naruto instantly. Naruto, welcome back. Come in. Who are your friends? Where's your team? Naruto chuckled as he let the girls go in first before following himself. That's a long story I only wanna tell once. Is Tazuna here? Tsunami bustled to the living room, instructing everyone to sit while she prepared refreshments. Yes, just a moment. Disappearing into the kitchen, she raised her voice. Father. Naruto has returned. Hearing a thump from upstairs, all of the assembled ninja was soon greeted by the sight of a bespectacled older man who was grinning brightly. Naruto, my boy. Welcome back. Coming forward, he pulled the boy into a hug that was returned easily. Pulling away after a moment, Tsunami coming in and offering everyone tea, the elder looked around and frowned. This isn't the team you were here with last. Do you ninja normally switch teams like this? Lot of cute girls too. Blushing, Naruto shook his head. No, might as well have a seat. A lot has happened since you last saw me. Watching Tazuna and Tsunami doing just that, Naruto began talking about the last half year. From the crazy Chunin exams, the secrets surrounding his clan and his village's council. He left out anything involving strictly ninja matters. He didn't want them into much trouble if Leaf came calling after all. But as he laid out the story and was wrapping up, he could tell both seemed much more angry than he thought they would be. As he finished, Tazuna was already pacing the floor. Those ingrates. To think we've been sending all of our mission requests through them. Sure, they were minor, but we supported them because of you. I've even referred other people. Oh, just they wait. I'll find another village to deal with from here on. Naruto grinned. That's kind of actually why we're here. Seeing Tazuna pause his pacing and look at the boy. You see, I'm here to rebuild Azushio. Wave is the closest island after all to assemble. I was hoping to gain the help of a really awesome designer and builder that I know. Tazuna flexed an arm with a smile. Well, look no further. I'll help ya no matter what. We've been doing well since you got rid of Gato, and I've got the manpower. Naruto shook his head. I'm planning on rebuilding a nation. I think you're going to need a lot more help than you have here. So I'm going to be back and forth providing lots and lots of clones. Tazuna nodded. It's going to be hard to transport people over water to the other island. He thought hard about that one. Karen finally raised a hand. We actually have a suggestion about that. Seeing the elder turn to her, the girl spread her hands. We're actually tunneling from another nation to Aisu. We could do the same thing here. Tazuna nodded. Underwater tunnel wouldn't be a bad idea. It's concealable and can be quickly sealed in emergencies. You said you can provide massive amounts of manpower ? Naruto nodded. Then you should stay here for a while. We can draw up plans and get to work by tomorrow if we're industrious. The tunnel will be the easy part. The real work starts once we get to the main island of Azushio. I'll have to spend some real time designing something. Naruto nodded. There are 2 main islands and about 7 minor islands. I want to use the main island closest to Wave as a more open civilian sector, while the second main island will be more ninja-oriented. Tazuna's mind was already planning and building a way, so a civilian city and a ninja fortress. Okay, you got a timeline, kid ? Nope, but I plan on bringing in people as soon as we can. I can pay for the construction to start. Naruto unsealed a scroll given to him from Kyuki to give to Tazuna if he agreed, which he tried to give to the old man. Tazuna waved the kid away. Don't you worry about payment. Instead, how about Aisu accepts Wave as a subordinate state once it's rebuilt? Everyone's eyes went wide. Hinata, who understood the further ramifications of that, stood. Do you know what you'd be doing ? Tazuna waved her away as well. Don't you worry your cute head girly. Wave wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this kid. Say, if it makes you feel better, we'll start making all of our mission requests through you starting now. Consider that you paying off your debt for the reconstruction. Tazuna was holding out a hand to the boy, who took a moment but eventually took it and shook firmly. You got a deal, Gramps. Reaching into a pocket and unsealing what he needed, Naruto hands Tazuna 2 Haration tags. These are seals that allow me to travel back and forth between places almost instantly. Place one in a secure room no one will bother, and the other I'd say somewhere safe in the village. Maybe at the bridge, just in case. Tazuna nodded. Got it. Welp, you look like you want to get to it right away, but we have some design work to do first. Motioning to everyone to follow him, Tazuna started leading them to the basement. I want everyone's input. This is going to be your home after all. You should have a say. Tsunami dear ? Let Inari know when he gets in I'm working. This might turn into an all-nighter. No worries father, I'll bring dinner down for you all later. Tsunami knew once he got started he wouldn't stop until he either passed out or finished. It was looking to be a busy time again for Wave. She'd go and start warning some of his usual crew to assemble the next morning. Mindset, she was out the door to make some stops and shop for extra food supplies. As the day progressed, Naruto having to make a trip with the older man back to Spring in order for him to get specifications on Spring's trains and their rail requirements, they were soon back in Wave and working through the night with the rest of the group. The initial plan was 2 parts. Not far from the main road coming into Wave they would excavate a large space to eventually build a train station. Starting there they would begin digging and building the tunnel to Aisu. Looking at a map, Tazuna realized the first leg of the journey was less than 50 kilometers. That was however a massive amount of resources for a rail line. Never mind the apparently 650-ish kilometers between Aisu and Spring. Finally looking at the letter Kyuki sent, Tazuna noted that Spring would be reimbursing any investment of local metals and equipment used for construction, along with massive funds for the project. First part secured, Tazuna then pointed out the second part with Karen's help. The Aisu Islands were still somewhat protected by both the whirlpools themselves but also some active seals. That meant once the first half of the tunnel was underway, Naruto and Karen would have to go with Tazuna to the southern island personally to mark the exit site and start digging from there to ensure no seals would interfere. Naruto promised to learn what he could so that he could begin that portion of the project himself. As long as Tazuna did his math correctly, both tunnels would build from each end and meet up underground. Once that was complete, they would begin the civilian city designs and break ground. From there, Naruto and the group would begin their next plan, raiding Orochimaru facilities. Because from there they could funnel the people they saved towards the reconstruction project. Tazuna now on board with the plan, everyone turned in for the night as they realized it was possibly going to be the last real day of rest they were going to get. The next day, true to their thoughts, Naruto and Tazuna were the first up and already out of the house. Sun barely rising above the horizon, Tazuna and an assembled group of his best construction team got ready to work. At the end of town opposite of the bridge they stood looking at a wooded area. However, there was nothing man-made between them and the shoreline from here. Tazuna and his men had already begun to set up work tables and benches while tools and equipment were being unloaded from wagons. So here's the deal, men, we're going to be clearing a 200 meter by 100 meter square here. Lengthwise heading toward the shoreline at this angle. As he talked, he pointed at a blueprint attached to a stand. He then motioned to the water, from there the tunnel construction will begin. Blasting will almost exclusively be performed by the resident knucklehead here, though we should be drilling the blast holes ourselves at first until he learns how it works. He will also be supplementing our manual labor with one of his ninja skills. Each of you will be getting a team of blonde ninja, so don't freak out. We should also clear a 50 meter and 50 meter square just to the right of the main space for materials and concrete mixing. Our main focus is the tunnel first, then the station. Got it? ? Getting a chorus of agreements, Naruto paced away from the group before making a family cross seal. Kijibushin no Jutsu. Smoke filling the morning air, 1,000 clones all stood waiting orders. Tazuna sighed as several of his workers twitched. That might be too many right away, Naruto. One of the nearest Narutos shrugged. The more the merrier, we say. Taking a deep breath, Tazuna turned to his own crew. Well, what are you waiting for? You all know your specialties. Let's get to work. Grab some ninja and start giving orders. Turning away, the older man walked back towards the dumbstruck men at the wagon. They were going to need a lot more tools. Already Narutos were in and out of one of the 6 assembled wagons, distributing tools and emptying it completely within moments. Leaning up to the wagon crews, he pointed back to town. Get every shovel, pickage, regular axe, everything you can find. This man is dead set on making progress. Getting salutes, the first wagon was manned and already headed back to town. Turning back to the work site, Narutos were already being directed. Some were working as logging teams to cut down trees using liberal amounts of wind chakra, while others were working as ground prep teams, digging and turning earth with massive efficiency. One clone was running up to Tazuna already. Do we have a space to dump dirt and rocks? ? Tazuna shook his head, not thinking they'd even get close to digging anything today. He should have known better. Clear a space next to the other smaller clear zone, use that for dirt dumping and rocks. Make sure to separate them properly, as some of the rock, or most of it, will be needed for the concrete. The clone saluted and ran away. On it. Already several trees were falling and being hauled to the first smaller clear zone that was itself being cleared of trees and greenery to be processed into usable wood. This progress was really insane if he thought about it. Only this inconceivable kid could do something like this. Seeing another 2 wagons leaving the site to procure more tools, Tazuna began walking among the crews. They seemed to be working out from the road. Clearing large trees first, then smaller bushes and shrubs, followed lastly by digging and turning the dirt. This process normally took several days of hard work, but these ninja were going to complete this first step in what looked like an hour, maybe less. Deciding to head straight for where he knew the tunnel construction would be, he noticed there still were many more Narutos with nothing to do. Walking up to an idle group of a dozen, he grinned and motioned for them to follow him. Who wants to blow something up? ? Their eyes lighting up, they followed him without question. Coming to the end of the square he had mapped out mentally, he found the clearing crews already here working on the trees in whatever way they could. Having mentally kept the distance counting in his head, he pointed to his left and his right. One of you go 50 meters that way and 50 meters the other, you're gonna be our markers for now. Two clones saluted and ran away to do as they were told. Tazuna turned to another one, where's the actual Naruto ? One need him too. One clone saluted and dispelled. Within a moment another Naruto was at his side. Yo, what's up Tazuna? You still using those crazy explosives ? Oh yeah. Do you have a way of directing the blast in specific directions ? Or shaping it ? Naruto nodded, sure can. I can even making the tags inject the blast into rock itself to break it apart. What do you need ? Perfect. Something uniform we can use over and over. Say, a charge that blasts straight in the direction you point it with the force of like, one stick of dynamite. It does need to be able to penetrate bedrock. Naruto nodded again and pulled out a scroll along with sealing ink and a brush. Clones lining up behind him, he began sealing away. Each completed tag was ripped free and handed to a clone who put it on the ground where Tazuna directed them. As around them the space was being cleared as well, their view of the road already free of trees by the time Naruto had finished 20 of the tags, Tazuna asked him to pause. Okay, how much time do you need to set off the tags ? It's instant. Okay. Raising his voice Tazuna looked at all of the clones around them. Clear the area, blasting is going to start. It was still somewhat early but he hoped the townspeople would understand. Once the area was clear Tazuna gave the go-ahead to Naruto. Making a single hand seal, the ground erupted across the space they were in. Two lines extending 20 meters ahead of them were excavated in an instant, the dirt and rock loosened up and ready to be removed. Tazuna turned to the assembled Narutos. Time to clear out the loose dirt and rock and we'll blast the next section once you're done. Watching as the Narutos listened instantly, many using even just their hands and jackets as they lacked tools, a line of Narutos began moving along the field, taking dirt and rock and depositing it into the other cleared section to be sorted and used later. Nodding, Tazuna made a note that it looked like that cleared the earth down to about 2 meters. Just about perfect to start. We're going to make some good progress here, kid. Naruto nodded and firmed his resolve. His skills may have been originally meant for killing. But if he could turn it into something to build a future ? He'd make that trade no problem. Behind him he felt actual chakra and turned to see the rest of his group finally awake. Done sleeping ? Tayuya frowned, not all of us need to be up at the crack of dawn. Naruto sighed and scratched his head as Ino and Karen looked at the slowly growing mound of dirt and rock not far away. You okay ? Ino had a thought about training her earth affinity, she hadn't gotten the chance before leaving. This would be the perfect time to do so. Actually, I figure you'll need bricks or rock slabs, right ? One can make them as a form of training. It'd be something she could do to help as well. Karen nodded, I was thinking the same thing, my earth affinity is weaker but I can still use the time to train. Tazuna nodded and motioned with his hands, can you make uniform bricks about this big ? Ino looked and mimed his hands with her own, sure, I can do that. Tazuna pointed at the ever-growing mound, then have at it, I was only planning on using the rock, but if you can change the dirt into strong bricks I'll welcome it. Both girls nodding, they ran off in the company of 2 Naruto clones. Tayuya however had a different idea, and turned to who she hoped was the real Naruto, hey I hate to be a downer, but I don't have a real use here, and we kinda brainstormed something while we were on the way here. Naruto looked up at her from where he was beginning to draw more seals, seeing that the line they made was about to be cleared up. What's up ? Well, I should head back and act as a guard for you-know-who. Just in case the leaf tries something. Hinata chimed in, we all figured at least one of us should be with her at all times. Naruto thought it over, and also considered that Tayuya still wanted to be as far from the leaf and Orochimaru as possible. So he nodded and motioned for a clone to grab the older redhead. Now that we have a tag here we can come and go pretty easy. Let Kayuki know we'll be making progress and we will update her as often as possible. Tayuya nodded as the clone grabbed her shoulder, sure thing, and make sure to come get me when we start raiding the snake bastard. Receiving an agreement, Tayuya and the clone disappeared. Left alone among the Naruto clones and Naruto himself, Hinata looked over his shoulder as he drew seals. She had been curious about seals herself, but never had given any time to learning them. She had nothing but time now. Can I learn seals as well? Naruto looked up in surprise before nodding. Hell yeah, I'll explain as I go. It's like learning a new language really as you get going. Setting about explaining how me made this current exploding tag, he unsealed a basic sealing book and handed it to the girl, glad that someone outside of the clan was interested in the techniques as well. Idly ripping free tags and handing them to clones, he mentally prepared for the days to come. It was going to be slow going at first, but he was ready to start their future. Another warning followed by blowing apart another section of field, a grin stretched across his face. Yeah, this was good. Freedom was good. 2 weeks, that was the amount of time that Naruto and his little group had spent in waves so far. Day in and day out of blasting, digging, and sculpting out the now underwater tunnel. Stepping down from the smaller mine cart they used to transport actual people and materials, Tazuna looked around. He knew the process would be sped up with Naruto adding massive amounts of clones to the campaign, but just how much progress they had made was startling. Deep within the tunnel to check progress, Tazuna had to strain his eyes a bit as the dim mining lights weren't the strongest things in the world. But here the Narutos were, now almost completely working on their own as they excavated dirt and rock and piled it off to the side. No longer needing to take it all the way back to the main site, Karen was working her nature chakra to full effect, building bricks from the material at a steady pace while his own more experienced crew directed Naruto's in where to place them. Along with Amino was focused on the walls and the ceiling, injecting her chakra into the earth and hardening the bedrock further into a dense reinforced concrete. Once a section of wall was completed, a Naruto would supervise while Hinata was drawing seals every 50 meters. Apparently once he informed Naruto that air needed to be pumped through the tunnel, they came up with a seal that would do just that, moving air from the surface and through the tunnel. Standing in the middle of the narrowed-down tunnel, now only 50 meters wide though 15 meters tall, Tazuna figured they were setting a great pace and Naruto could be trusted to do this on his own now. Looking around and finding one idle, he walked up to the mismatched-eyed boy and tapped his shoulder. You the real one? The clone shook its head. You need the boss? Seeing Tazuna nod, the clone dispersed, having not been doing anything at the moment. Left alone for a few seconds, the Naruto with Hinata waved at her and turned to look around the tunnel. Finding Tazuna, the boy bounded his way. What's up, Tazuna? The old man motioned back to where he had come from. Actually, I think this would be a good place to split up. You're going to have to start the tunnel on the Aisu side now. You remember how I showed you to determine your direction and location while tunneling, right? Naruto raised a hand and tilted it back and forth. Yeah, mostly. Karen paid a lot of attention to, so I'm sure she can back me up if needed. Tazuna sighed. You've got to be confident about this, otherwise the tunnel ends will drift apart and we'll never meet. Well, Karen has this ability to sense where people are, so we can use that in the worst case to correct our course. Tazuna considered that before nodding. There was a backup at least. Okay. Well, it's about noon now. I'll get a boat ready to go for in the morning and you can head out. Sound good? Naruto nodded. Sure thing, though with a split up your progress on this side will slow down. Yeah, but we're actually already halfway there. My crews will be more focused now on delicate work, like lighting, emergency footpaths, and laying down gravel for the full-sized rails to come. Okay, so we'll keep it up for today and tomorrow we'll head for the southern Aisu Island. Getting a thumbs up from Tazuna, the older man walked around to talk with some of the older non-ninja crew members. Naruto himself returned to Hinata's side, watching as she walked along the wall to the next section needing a wind seal. How are you holding up, Hinata? Hinata turned to Naruto, jacket wrapped around her waist from the humid heat in the tunnel. I'm okay, Naruto. What did Tazuna want? Let us know, we're pretty much halfway and we should head to Aisu tomorrow to start tunnel construction from that end. Mentally Naruto was excited. They would finally be setting foot on his ancestral home. Hinata could see the joy on the boy's face. That's exciting news. Are we stopping here to go now? Shaking his head, the boy looked out over the sea of working clones. Nah. We should make as much progress as we can before we leave. Once we do, it's all up to Tazuna and his guys. Seeing a tired Ino walk his way, she sat down against the wall with a sigh. Worn out Ino? You have no idea. My reserves are improving like crazy because of this, but it's still crazy work. Looking up at him, she grinned brightly. I'll be good in a bit, just need to take a break. Naruto nodded, his own reserves actually feeling the burn a bit this last week. As the tunnel lengthened, he had more room for all of his clones to actually get work done. Which meant he had been making more than he probably should have. Thankfully, this was the type of thing that didn't mentally overload him, simple work able to be discarded easily. Even if he had a weird craving to start sculpting rock, weird. Soon Karen joined the four, body spent. I'm guessing you're low on chakra too, Ino ? Ino nodded. Oh yeah, how are you ? Nearly out, gonna take a long break. Naruto pushed away from the wall. I'll see about getting us lunch then, we still have a long day ahead of us. Seeing Hinata pull out a Haracian tag and wrap it around her wrist, the boy grinned and teleported away back to Tazuna's house and hopefully food. Ino stretched out with a moan, can't believe we're actually doing it. Karen nodded, Naruto really is something, isn't he? Her voice was wistful and both other girls picked up on that. Hinata smiled, he's always been special but now he has something even more important than himself to work for. All three of the girls sitting in silence for a minute, the pale-eyed girl sat down between the other two. How do you think things are in the leaf ? Ino snorted, besides shitting bricks ? One bet my team is enjoying the peace and quiet without me there to nag them to death. My mom and dad are probably worried about me, and I should write a letter to them soon and at least let them know I'm okay. Pausing and looking over at her friend, Ino nudged the other girl, any regrets ? Hinata shook her head quickly, I'll miss Kurenai-sensei for sure. But I'm sure my team understands why I left. I worry a bit for my little sister, but father favored her heavily so I'm not too worried about her being treated badly. I might write a letter to my team as well, to at least ease their minds. Popping back into existence in front of them within a few minutes, Naruto was all smiles as he carried several plates of food held in his arms with chakra. Hope you're all hungry. Distributing food and sitting down himself, the small group would have a quick bite to eat before getting back to work. It was odd for them to use their skills for something other than ninja combat. It was almost comparable to D-rank missions, something they had all at one point or another complained as useless non-ninja work. Now, however, they were seeing it in a different light. This could be some of the most valuable work they'd ever do. Settling themselves in for the rest of the evening, it was going to be a long day. It was the next day that found the group up at the crack of dawn. Still half asleep in some cases, excited and energized in others, the group was aboard a chartered boat and making their way to Aisu. Naruto and Karen had spent all night poring over the Uzumaki notes and books again in order to better understand the whirlpools and the environmental seals that held them in place. And today, nearly vibrating with energy, they both felt that they could get them to where they needed to go. Ino had passed back out once on board, but Hinata was trying to wake herself up as she watched the excited pair. Their boat captain warned them it wouldn't be a long trip, maybe half an hour at the current speed. The two Uzumaki sitting at the bow of the boat and just barely holding back from jumping off and running over the ocean instead, Hinata moved to wake Ino back up. True to the captain's words, the fishing boat soon caught sight of the rocky terrain of the Aisu shoreline. Getting their first view and holding in the well of emotions it brought forward, Karen noted that indeed, trying to bring ships between the various whirlpools and the rocky outcroppings was most likely suicide. However, something was bothering her as she thought about how the mix of artificial and natural whirlpools were going. Turning to the other Uzumaki with her, Karen voiced her concern, all of the whirlpools are online. Shouldn't at least some of them be deactivated from the invasion ? Naruto shrugged, they might have come from a different direction, we'll have to scout and see. But we can't turn them off unless we're on land. Naruto thought about that before nodding and unsealing his sword. Turning back to the captain watching them from the wheelhouse, Naruto raised his voice, about how far are we from shore you think ? The captain looked out over the water, this is about as close as I can get. We're still about half a mile out I think. Naruto nodded, thanks. Motioning for the others to step away from him, he made sure the seal inscribed at the base of this weapon was still there before asking mental forgiveness for what he was about to do. Judging the distance himself a bit more, Naruto spun once before hurling the weapon with all his might. Sword shooting off towards the island like a javelin, Naruto gathered the girls up and made sure they were all holding on to him at some point before waiting a full minute just in case. Thanks for the lift, Captain. In a flash, they were gone. On a rocky beach, the Kubakiriboko landed with a loud crash and a plume of dust. Not a second later, a flash of light dumped 4 teens on the beach with it. Everyone landing in a heap. Naruto and Karen were the first up, stars in their eyes as they realized they were finally on the southern Aisu island. They had made it to Aisu. Jumping and hugging each other, the pair did restrain themselves from running ahead. Pulling his sword from the earth and sealing it away, the group made their way up the rocks and came upon a forest barrier. Taking to the trees with Naruto in the lead, the group made their way inward. They needed a spot relatively clear and a little more inland than directly on the beach itself. Not even a full minute of hopping trees, they were dumped out into a wide and open field. The space was wide open fields as far as they could see. Overgrown grasses and weeds had taken over what looked like the ruins of a town or village that had once sat here. The display froze Karen and Naruto in place for a while, neither bringing themselves to move. Hinata and Ino tried coming forward to try and comfort the two. This was once where their ancestors lived, taken down early by the greed of other villages. Naruto shook himself free first, turning back to gauge the rising sun. We're here to bring all of this back and make sure it never happens again. Unsealing tools and equipment borrowed from Tazuna to gauge the direction he needed to start digging, Karen too wiped away tears that had begun to form and turned to help him. You're right, we can grab Tayuya and mourn later. When we've secured our future. Watching the Uzumakis shelve the grief for the moment, Hinata and Ino set about their own work while mentally making sure they would help their friends talk through their feelings later. Hinata unsealed their camping equipment, ready to set up the tents and cooking equipment. They could flash back and between the islands now that they had made it, but energy-wise it was better to just stay full-time. At least that was how Naruto put it. Ino was assisting Hinata with the work, using her earth chakra to help level the space for better sleeping. Naruto grinned as he dialed in the direction and started spamming clones in the hundreds. Time to get to work, boys. Yosh. Naruto however paused as the clones started clearing the area and cordoning off a square space much the same as the one in Wave. He made another 100 and gave them specific orders. You lot go scout the island and see if you can make your way to any of the other islands as well. Stay in groups of 4, place Haration tags if you do make it to other islands, got it? On it, boss. The 100 clones were gone and dashing away across the field. Karen sighed and looked out at the field of clones who were already beginning to blast away into the ground and move dirt and rocks away, some beginning her question mark. Naruto nodded and clapped the girl on her shoulder. It'll all be worth it. Just watch. Hinata calls out to the pair, we should have enough food in seals to last us a few weeks, though fishing would probably help. Naruto turned away from Karen and walked towards Hinata to figure out supplies. Karen herself watched all the activity and decided he was right. This was worth it. Plus being on an island away from the rest of the world was a good way to hide for a while. Tsunade sighed. The new daily life within the leaf just wasn't the same to her without the little brat here. Maybe she could sneak off and go hunt him down ? Join him on whatever crazy quest he was on ? Nah. She had a duty here, a duty he himself had fought to make sure she could do, and she was going to do it. For him if no one else. Now if he asked her to leave ? Shizune was walking into her office and breaking her chain of thought. A sealed scroll in her hand, the assistant handed it to the Hokage before bowing and returning to her desk quietly. Seemed the younger woman was just as upset still. Made sense. Moving to unseal the scroll and seeing the daimyo seal, a ball of lead formed in her gut. Just what she needed to start her day. Tsunade Senju, current Hokage of the Leaf Village. I write you personally as it has come to my attention that a clan has left the village with grievances. This is unprecedented. No clan has uprooted and left the village since its founding by my recall. Truly the office of the Hokage has failed somewhere if even a founding clan like the Uzumaki have grown tired and decided to leave. And there are talks that the clan was stolen from ? Assets illegally seized and sold ? Normally I would not consider that news as even worth considering, but now thinking about how quickly the Leaf Village recovered from both the end of the Third Great War and then again after the disaster of the Kyuubi attack. Well, those funds had to come from somewhere, and somehow I get the feeling that the office of the Hokage did not have what was necessary. These are major accusations that will require inquisition. You are on notice, Senju. The daimyo will be in touch again soon. Putting down the scroll with a heavy sigh, she needed to hope that someone could give her some good news. Attention from the daimyo was never a good thing long term. Flaring her chakra and waiting, her window was being opened by a run-down Jiraiya within minutes. Hey Tsunade, what do you need? Any idea who was after Naruto? Or where he went? No and no. Jiraiya sat down in the window and looked out over the village. The burnt wreck of Naruto's apartment sticking out like a sore thumb. Interviewing all of the rookie teams gave us nothing to go on. But my gut is telling me his team might know where he went. I'd say give them to a Yamanaka. Or even T&I. Tsunade shook her head. No. I won't do that to his team. If they are protecting him, they're doing the right thing at the moment. But if they're hiding something, who says they don't know who tried to kill him as well? Glaring at the man who cut her off, she waited until he could tell he had in fact crossed a line. I get you're upset, your godson is missing. But I want to know who tried to kill him on the double. That's your job until I say otherwise. We would know if something happened to him after all. Half of the elemental nations would probably end up a crater. Frowning but nodding, Jiraiya couldn't say anything against that. You're right. I'll check in with the toads periodically in case they hear something from him. I'll hunt down leads in the meantime. Wanting to lighten the mood a little and maybe motivate the pervert too, Tsunade leaned back a little. You find out who was after him, and maybe you and I can finally have that drink. Chuckling, Jiraiya saluted the older woman, giving an old man hope. You really are worried yourself, aren't you? Not waiting for a response, the man was gone and leaping across the village. Tsunade sighed. Hermit is really on edge and it's more than just his godson missing. But what about? Shizune leaned back through the door, curious about something. Tsunade, I've been wondering something. Tsunade motioned for her to come in, pulling a secret bottle of sake out and pouring a cup. Sure, what is it? Shizune sighed but decided not to argue about the drinking right now. All of this seems to stem from the council overstepping themselves. How and why are you letting them? Tsunade thought about how to answer that without giving away too many secrets. Hiruzen had been sitting on a mountain of skeletons so high she still hadn't gotten around to figuring them all out. The things he'd done, authorized, or allowed to happen. Some of it made her sick. After the war, our ranks were thin and coffers empty. Rebuilding and training ninja takes money, and the clans pitched in, but the Hokage couldn't just come out and say it wasn't enough. So instead he made concessions with the civilian merchants. He would give them more influence on the council and some minor roles involving ninja, and in turn they would provide financial backing and civilian numbers of ninja candidates. This was a back room sort of deal, the type that no one could find out about at the time. Now it doesn't matter so much because we can see in hindsight what happened. But why not scale it back when it's proving to become an issue? Because it's kind of an open secret with possible repercussions to our village's soft power. Soft power? Sure, we have soft power and physical. Physical is our military might, our ninja, skills, weapons. That's physical might. Soft power is political. It's what lets us go to the negotiating table and get what we want all without sacrificing lives. And right now the issue is if we want to nix the council, it would need to be because of something on the level of treason against the daimyo himself. And second issue, our funding. The office of the Hokage has been doing its best to fill the hole that it found itself in once we tapped the civilians for military funding, and with the latest funding we were getting from nations like Wave and Spring it was improving. Now though, for some reason those mission requests have dried up. Sighing heavily, the Hokage leaned back in her chair while looking up at the ceiling. Wave might make sense. We only had that contract because of Team 7. Spring as well, but the news of what happened shouldn't have reached them yet, and running escort missions for the metal shipments was good money. It would solve a lot of problems if we could find the assassin and find out who hired him, then correct? Tsunade nodded. Exactly. If we could prove the civilians did more than just hinder a clan head, instead trying to kill him? That would have the daimyo stepping in and satiating their assets for us. Sounds like a complicated mess. Telling me. Taking a deep breath, the elder ninja sighed and refocused back on her work. Something about the way Jiraiya was acting still bothered her, but there wasn't much she could do except keep him focused. She hoped that maybe Naruto himself would send word soon. She missed the little brat. Naruto and the girls were all grinning at each other. Dirty, sweaty and more than a little excited, they look around anxiously at the smaller group of clones that were around them. The excitement was because after a week and a half of Frenching activity, they could hear voices on the other side of the wall. Not having electricity available on their end and having to resort to torches soaked in toad oil, Naruto now stood before the wall holding out a hand. An explosion would probably be a bad idea, Naruto. Ino piped up from where she was resting with an equally tired Karen. Dense chakra or not, working almost non-stop morning to night would wear anyone down. Naruto nodded while forming a Rasengan, something a little more controlled then. Taking the spinning and grinding technique, he used it to drill away at the wall. Crumbling away a large section, they were met with brighter light and the smiling faces of Tazuna and his crew. Shaving away more of the wall to give everyone space, they were met with cheers. Well, brat, when the others said they heard your blasting getting closer, I almost didn't believe them. I figured we had a few more days. Naruto gave a tired groan and stretched out his back. Probably should have been, but we were excited. Looking over the boy's shoulder and seeing the ragged group, Tazuna nodded. Welp, you held up your end. Did you prepare a space for us to get started on the other end? Naruto turned to look down the darker space. Sure did. Just like on your end, a 100 by 200 meter space cleared and flattened. Also clearing out most of the rubble and marked a space I'd like a monument to the dead built. Handing over a scroll with his idea, Tazuna nodded solemnly and pocketed the scroll. Well, with that, I think we all deserve a bit of a break. Tazuna motioned to waiting rail cars. So we're at the next phase then after a break? Yeah, we're gonna relax for a few days, and then figure out how to start sending people your way. Did you finish up the entrance cover? Currently it's still a little bare, but it'll be a fully enclosed warehouse space we're going to claim as an aid station for a while. Don't worry about anyone finding the entrance yet. Then we're out. Till later, old man. Hinata and Ino came forward together. Thank you for everything, Tazuna. Karen wobbled her way to hug Naruto for support. Yes, thank you. It means everything. Tazuna rubbed the back of his head while around him his workers all chuckled. Oh shucks, this old man is just glad he can give back to you kids. Now we'll have something ready for refugees by the time you start sending them here, on my honor. We'll hold you to that, Tazuna. Naruto grinned and after the girls grabbed him, flashed away. One of his men walked up to Tazuna. So what's the plan, boss? Tazuna motioned to the hold and the other end of the tunnel. Current goal is to finish taking down this wall and extend the rail cars to the other side. Put out the word, quietly. We want refugees and people looking to settle somewhere peaceful. I can have Tsunami round up some of the locals to help put together the aid station. For us, I have the initial designs of the civilian island already so we can start on mapping and construction. I want to surprise the kid when he gets back with his first wave of rescues. Can we all agree on that? Getting loud agreements, they got back to work. Naruto and his group were dumped back in spring. All tired, hungry, and ready for a few days of real rest. I say we take a few days off at least. Ino and Karen stood and stretched. That sounds wonderful. I don't want to even think of dirt for ever. Hinata giggled. To imagine you're usually such a pretty girl as well. Ino groaned. I know. I'll be scrubbing myself for months after this. Ignoring all of the girls talking, Naruto shook his head and headed to his room for a change of clothes. Feeling like for once he had the time, he decided the outdoor bathes were calling his name. It was still early in the evening, he could relax and then come back for dinner. Waving to a staff member and letting them know they were back for a few days, he finally made it to his room and gathered up a change of clothes. Not long later and outside walking the short distance to the outdoor bath attached to the manor, Naruto was soon washed up, clean, and lowering himself into the hot waters of the bath. Clothes stored away inside the changing area, he relaxed with his towel on his head. Nothing beat this relaxation. Reaching one hand up to rub his shoulder, much bulkier than a month ago, he decided that some time off would be good. Hearing the door cover move aside behind him, he wondered who would be joining him today. There weren't all that many men in the manor outside of the staff. Leaning his head back and being met with a towel-clad Koyuki, the boy had to look away in a hurry to stifle a nosebleed. KK Koyuki. What are you doing? ? Oh. I told the staff the bathes were a private affair tonight. You've been working hard this last month and deserve some peace. So why are you here? ? He was ready to jump away to prevent getting pounded. He wasn't a pervert. Really. As the daimyo of spring, I thought it would be a good idea of have a chat and bond with the future Azukage. We're adults here after all, what's a little skinship ? Giggling however on the inside, the slightly older girl smiled as she eased into the hot waters, keeping a respectable distance from the boy. He was pretty easy on the eyes, all his ninja training having toned him up nicely. I'm not going to talk you out of this, ? Snow women are very strong-willed, Naruto, you'd best remember that. Isn't this the land of spring now ? Semantics, shut up and have a drink with me. Motioning to a tray with a bottle of sake and several smaller cups, she poured him one and then herself another, handing his to him. Let this be the beginning of a great and long-lasting partnership. Looking down at the liquor, remembering something Kakashi had told him about being an adult the second they put on the headband. He sighed and nodded, firming his resolve to a long future ahead. Tapping their cups together, both drank lightly and smiled. Naruto had to admit at least, it was a nice and had a light taste, something fruity. No wonder Tsunade drank so much. So Naruto, perhaps we can discuss something else, while we are here. Relaxing back completely and making sure the clips holding her hair up were tight and ignoring that moving her arms up allowed her towel to slip just slightly, she smirked. What are your plans now ? Looking away from creamy flesh, the boy thought about that one. Well, at least for a few days we need to rest up and relax. But then we have been thinking it was time to start hitting Orochimaru in his prisons. Might I make another suggestion ? Sure, of course. While you're considering that, perhaps quietly search smaller towns and border villages. Small wars and skirmishes are still popping up all over the nations. It's, perhaps a little underhanded, but you could offer people being displaced the option of joining you. Naruto rolled his head this way and that as he thought about it, watching the sky go from blue to orange as the sun set. Still his favorite color. Yeah, that would be a great idea. Though getting normal people to follow me might be a problem. Koyuki shook her head and she took another tentative sip of her drink. Something tells me you won't have a problem with that at all. You have a presence about you. I have faith you will succeed. Naruto chuckled, thanks for the confidence. Of course. Edging a little closer to the boy, she wondered if she could steer the conversation a little more to more fun things. Shot down before plans could even start to roll, the flap was pushed aside and a confident-looking Ino is standing there in a towel with a somewhat shy Hinata was behind her. Pointing at the daimyo, Ino grinned, aha. Caught red-handed. Sighing, Koyuki closed her eyes and looked the picture of perfect serenity. I have no clue what you mean. Both girls came forward on Naruto's other side at again a respectable, somewhat, distance away from him. And just why aren't you on the girls' side ? Koyuki just smiled. Why aren't you ? We're all Leaf Ninja here, it's customary for us to bath together after long hard days. Hinata sighed, you could make it a little more believable than that, Ino. Naruto just sighed and continued to look at the sky. Do I get a say in this ? Koyuki just leaned forward and refilled his cup. I doubt you're getting away from this one, Naruto. Great. Ino walked out deeper into the bath with a smirk. You know, most guys would literally kill to be in the bath with a bunch of pretty girls. Point, you're all very beautiful, but I'd rather not get pounded for being a pervert. Eyes up, he missed everyone else blushing at the compliment. Hinata, however, tried to ease his mind. You won't be, we're all covered, and we're intruding on you after all. But we wanted to celebrate. We completed the first stage of our plan. That's a big thing. Naruto lifted his cup. You aren't wrong there. Woo. Now that he had a chance to relax, the mental fatigue was beginning to catch up with him. No, wait, Tayuya, come on, let's just let it go. It'll be fine. Bump that, you all got to hang out together for weeks and I've been stuck here. I wanna party too. Another movement of the flap and out came Karen and Tayuya. Karen is holding a very large tray loaded with food, while Tayuya had the same idea as Koyuki, a large bottle of sake held high. Now it's gonna be a party. Everyone laughing and the girls getting into the spirit of things, Naruto wonders just how his quiet hope of a peaceful bath was ruined so wonderfully. Somehow his pervert of a sensei planned this. He didn't know how yet, but he'd get pervy Sage back for this somehow. Taking another sip of the fruity beverage, he started to feel a pleasant vibration cover his body. Tayuya was attempting to wrestle the Yamanaka in the center of the bath to the cheers and giggles of Karen and Hinata. Oh, Whiskers, what's the plan for what we do next? Gonna start hitting snake bastards' lairs? Naruto nodded. Yeah, Kyuki suggested that while we're hitting his bases we can stop in on any war-torn parts of the nations and offer asylum to anyone we come across. Tayuya nodded as she had Ino in a headlock and was smushing the girl into her boob. Well, if I can make a suggestion, let's start with his southern base. Oh, why's that? Naruto missed the show, eyes watching the colors in the sky slowly change. The south base is a prison. Mostly kids and teens. There won't be a major guard presence there and would make a great first stop. Plus, if we hit it fast enough, he wouldn't even know it's been hit for potentially weeks. She remembered her own time in the shitty place. She wouldn't mind blowing it all to hell. Her lapse in concentration allowed Ino to break free and dunk her, someone's towel going flying. Naruto didn't have a preference for where they started. Just so long as they did. Okay, but we'll have to figure out how to get everyone out of there quietly. I can harassment with people and with my clones if I give them extra chakra. But that's still some work. Inside his mind the QB grumbled, this is a worthy cause, I wouldn't be opposed to lending my chakra as aid. Oh ? What brings this out ? There was silence, but Naruto waited as the link was still open. Someone much wiser than you reminded me once long ago about what was important in life. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, shitty monkey. Just accept the gift. Link being cut, Naruto decided he would have a sit down and talk with the beast someday soon. But that was a good backup just in case. There shouldn't be that many people there. If your clones can transport us via harassment, then you should be able to manage it in one trip, maybe two. Karen spoke up as she laughed at Ino putting Tayuya in an arm lock. The younger but more physically fit girl having a strength advantage. Kyuki spoke up and rose her cup in the air. No ninja or work talk. Tonight we're going to relax and party. The girls all cheering. Naruto enjoyed the purples now joining the orange of the sky. He didn't question why a towel just flew across his vision. No, he was going to relax and keep his eyes to himself. In the morning maybe he'd take a real long walk into town, alone, away from crazy ninja girls. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.